So this is the RTX 3090 Ti, and it's one of NVIDIA's fastest GPUs they have available today. And I think this is gonna be priced extremely high, not really geared towards gamers, but more towards content creators, just because they're advertising this as a creator GPU. And look, you know, I think GPU prices are starting to slowly come down. We're starting to see a bit more supply. People are having an easier time getting their hands on them. It's not perfect yet, but I don't think this one will be an issue because this is really geared towards a very niche market that has bigger wallets. Now, this is not the Founders Edition. This is MSI's SUPRIM 24G. So it's a bigger card. It has higher boost clock speeds. In fact, I have an RTX 3080 Ti right here to give you guys an idea about the size difference. Like, this is just significantly longer. In fact, if I pull out the trusty old measuring tape, we're looking at about 13 or a little bit over 13 inches long, compared to about 11.25 on the RTX 3080 Ti. And in thickness, this RTX 3080 Ti is literally almost half the size of this guy. So this is about almost 3 inches, and this one is just under 2, so about 1 3/4. So depending on the type of system you're building, you might not even be able to use this, especially if you're looking at a smaller build. Like this, I was able to vertical mount in my bigger case, and I can't do it with this because this is going from a 2-slot GPU up to a 3-slot, and my case only has 2 slots for vertical mounts. Now, because this card is so big, it actually comes with a bracket, not like the plastic brackets that like get drilled into your case, but an actual pull with a wedge to keep this GPU from sagging. I do think the design is actually quite nice. They have this like silver and black theme going on. You do have the MSI Dragon logo in the middle. You have some RGB lights in the front over here. And then if you flip it on the back, you have this like clean plate with the Supreme information, you know, a little bit of a look at the PCB. And then you have the MSI Dragon logo over here. There's also a bit more RGB on this side. Like this Supreme logo lights up, and along with these little white plastic edges over here. Now, it is using a bigger power supply. Like, they recommend 850 watts at the bare minimum, but MSI actually sent me a 1,000 watt power supply to use with this. So I personally would go with 1,000 watts because the base wattage of this thing is 450 watts compared to 320 with the RTX 3080 Ti that I have right here. In fact, it needs 3 PCIe cables, okay? So this is the proprietary connector for the RTX 3080 Ti. It only needs 2 PCIe cables, and then this one needs a whopping 3. But the one thing that kind of threw me off was the performance, because I was expecting this to completely crush the RTX 3080 Ti. And don't get me wrong, like this does have faster boost speeds at 1950 megahertz. It has the same base speeds as the Founders Edition, which is about 1560. You do get 24 gigabytes of VRAM, which is exactly the same as the RTX 3090. It's using GDR6X. You have about 1008 gigabytes a second of memory bandwidth. You have 400 more CUDA cores compared to the RTX 3080 Ti, and you have more RT cores for ray tracing. But the weird thing is that even though it did do better in every single game that I compared the RTX 3080 Ti to, it didn't crush it, right? It was only slightly better. Like at 1080p gaming, for example, like in Shadow of the Tomb Raider and Metro Exodus, I did see a nice big jump in 1080p performance. But most of the other games that I tested were only from like 6 to 9 frames per second difference. And don't get me wrong, at 1080p gaming, it's still very CPU intensive. The 12900K is obviously doing a lot of that work. But it wasn't until I hit 2K and 4K that things started to change a bit. Like the gap in Shadow of the Tomb Raider got a little bit smaller compared to 1080p, but Dirt 5, which is obviously more VRAM intensive and can utilize the GPU better, got a massive difference in performance compared to the RTX 3080 Ti. And the story was the same at 4K. Like 4K gaming with this guy was better, but it wasn't like a massive improvement. In fact, I would say that it's probably very similar to the RTX 3090. Now, NVIDIA is advertising this as a creator's dream, right? Like the idea is you buy this if you're editing like 8K footage, because you have these huge, large memory workflows that require all that VRAM. And if you're not that individual or you're not that company, then you probably don't need all of that VRAM, and you can totally be fine with an RTX 3080 or 3080 Ti. Now, Puget Bench just updated their plugins literally a few days ago, so I had to rerun all my tests, not only on the RTX cards, but even the M1 Ultra Mac Studio that I have here. And the Mac Studio is now the king when it comes to Adobe Premiere Pro. It had the highest score I've seen on anything that I've tested recently. This came in second, and then the RTX 3080 Ti came in third. But when it came to Photoshop or After Effects, the RTX 3080 Ti performed better than the RTX 3090 Ti. And I found that very weird, because a program like After Effects really loves extra VRAM. And I think the reason why this is happening is not because this is a slower card. In fact, I know this is a faster card. I think because the drivers haven't really been optimized yet. Even Blender, which is an application geared towards creating 3D assets, performed better on the RTX 3080 Ti. Now, you don't need this card if you're playing Apex Legends or Fortnite or Lost Ark or World of Warcraft. Like, this is really meant for creators. Sure, if you want to like max things out in Cyberpunk or the new Elden Ring, then sure, like you will be able to take advantage of this at 4K and keeping ray tracing on, but this is really geared towards creators. In fact, if you want to talk about ray tracing, it does perform better. It's a slight bump up from the RTX 3090, and I saw about a 7 to 8 frames per second difference. At the end of the day, I think if you were buying the best GPU for the price for gaming and you want like as much performance as possible, I truly feel like the RTX 3080 Ti makes the most sense. This is really geared towards that one niche, the creator niche that wants to utilize 8K assets, are working with large memory workflows and need all that extra VRAM. Like if you already have an RTX 3090, then this is like not an upgrade for you. It's very minor. And I still think NVIDIA, or maybe even MSI, I'm not sure who, needs to update these drivers so that these creative applications I've tested show better performance, because there's no way that this card is performing worse than an RTX 3080 Ti. Because when it comes to gaming, we see that jump, but I'm not seeing it in creative applications. So anyways, that is my review of the RTX 3090 Ti. Very niche focused. It is expensive, and if you're looking at this, you probably know what you need it for. But yeah, if you have any more questions, let me know in the comment section down below. Like the video if you liked it, subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll see you guys in the next one.